In this presentation, we will take a look at some general rules on how to format a presentation. Get ready for business, online business. Objective. At the end of this, you will be able to list the number of objectives a presentation should have and structure a presentation using objective, expansion, and then summary type format. In prior presentations, we've taken a look at a basic business model. I won't go into it in detail. You can go into that in prior presentations. But in essence, we've been talking a lot about making instructional videos to support your current work and your online business. So then the question, of course, is, well, how should I structure those YouTube videos? We talked a bit in the past about what kind of tools you can use, including PowerPoint and other types of areas where you can get picture tools and whatnot. Obviously, a lot of the things that you will be using will vary depending on the type of instructional videos that you have, but the format of the instructional videos can be laid out. And this comes down to basically how people learn and whatnot. Teachers are really good at this, especially grade school teachers, actually up to like 12th grade have to have credentials. So they look into this kind of stuff a lot. So there's a lot of research out there if you want to say, how could you structure your presentation so people can understand it best? Once you get that stuff, you get that stuff down, then you want to take a look at the difference between, younger learners and adult learners. So we can get the structure down for young, and then when you go to the adult learners, which is typically where most people probably are at right now, then similar rules apply, but then the adult learners really want to apply something. So obviously we're usually thinking about something that they can take and they're going to take something away from. They're going to be able to apply it. And when you think of marketing terms, if you think of that from the perspective of marketing, you would think of from the perspective of something you'll often hear if you go on the marketing side of things, that you have to identify the pain point that someone has, something that they want to do, something that they want to achieve, what's holding them back, what's the bottleneck, what's the restrictive thing. That's what you're basically going to be offering here. So you want to list out basically those objectives, and you want to do it in a logical way, and I'll show you that here. So format of the presentation. First of all, typically you only want to have 1 to 3 objectives. So you want to have typically 1 to 3 objectives. Many people, including myself, will typically add too many things. You just think you can cover too many things in one presentation. And sometimes there's a need for that. I mean, if you only have an hour to present everything you got, then, you do your best. But you really would be better off almost all the time to trim back and get the key points. So what you want to do is basically trim back, get to the key points that you want within a topic. Now, if you're doing instructional videos, that you can put up multiple types of videos, especially if it's in a course type of format, then you want to break it down to 1 to 3 items and just do another video for the next item. So just make sure that you break it down to digestible chunks and then do another presentation. Now, you might think about the YouTube statistics on this and think, well, what's the best format for YouTube and not just for a teaching style? In other words, we have 2 types of objectives here. One, how can people consume the content in such a way that's best for them, which would be like 1 to 3 objectives in shorter videos typically. Or 2, what's best for YouTube in terms of ranking and things like that. And that it's not as straightforward as you would think, because it used to be that YouTube, really was there for shorter videos, short type of videos, and those are the things that drove it. But now there's a lot of presentations now that actually go longer, because if you're able to maintain people's attention for a longer period of time, that could actually benefit. And it's also a little bit more difficult in YouTube to have you could have a playlist with multiple videos that are one after another. But usually when people find the videos, if they find it through organic search, then they're not going to go from one video to another. They'd have to go to the description to do that. So it's not as straightforward in YouTube as you would think. I mean, in some cases, long video formats could work because, again, the attention span would be longer. People would be on the video longer, and you can give more information in one video. Now, if you're formatting this for YouTube and you're making instructional content for people for your work and for like to put up in a course platform, then I would still make the shorter videos, right? I would still make the shorter videos, because that's going to go to your ultimate goal, which is basically, to help out whatever your work is or course creation, and then have multiple videos so that you can break each item out into its individual objective. if you do longer format videos for YouTube, because your primary objective is to drive traffic there, then you might do longer format videos that you break up into chunks within the presentation. And then you can actually put timestamps in the YouTube video by just basically telling YouTube where the time is that the break is, and people can actually jump to that component. Now, I don't think they can do those timestamp jumps if they're on a phone, though, which a lot of people use, right? They can if they're on a computer. They can typically do the timestamp jumps. So those are just a few overviews, but the basic objective is that you want to bring it down to 1 to 3 topic chunks of information. And then the presentation format, just the most basic presentation format should look something like this, right? You're going to give the objectives. This is what you're going to learn. Then you're going to expand on that, actually show the expansion of those 1 to 3 things that they're going to learn. Then you're going to basically recap what they have learned in the presentation. So that seems really basic, but notice that that's going to be, in essence, kind of like the same format you'll have for an essay, an explanational type of thing. This is what I'm going to tell you. This is me telling you it. This is what I told you, right? This is what we're going to show here. This is what you're going to learn. This is you learning it. This is what you have learned. And that gives the double emphasis in it, right? This is what you've learned. This is what this is you learning it. This is you have learned it, right? That's the basic format that you kind of want for most presentations. Now, again, you could expand on that and deviate from that, but that's going to be the general type of format. Now, if you think about the objectives, how should the objectives be formatted? So this is what you're going to learn. This is the pain point. This is what you're kind of selling. This is the first thing on the presentation where you're saying, hey, this is what you're going to get out of this. Do you want to spend the 5 minutes to look at this thing or not? Because here's what you're going to get out of it, right? Well, you can format it in this way. For example, we will explain how to format a presentation. Now, this is not the ideal way because really you're telling people what you're going to show here. And by the way, when I list these out, note that I don't always follow the best practices. I should be better at it, but you'll probably look at some presentations and say, you didn't do that here, and but this is the presentations that I have taught before, and this is kind of a big deal in terms of how you would structure the presentation. So again, this isn't bad, but it's saying what we will explain something. It's not saying this is what you will learn, right? It's not explicitly saying this is what you're going to be taking away from this. Now they can imply that, but it's not explicitly said. And then this one, understand how to format a presentation. Again, understand is kind of actionable. It's kind of like you will know this, you will understand. But it's not really concrete. I mean, and if you're thinking about this from an objective type of standpoint, you really want to think about it, if you're really going to get detailed on it, is like, well, if I was to test that, could I test for someone's understanding? It would be a little bit difficult. I'd like to have some more concrete stuff. And if you're telling someone how to do something, then you could be more concrete than that. So you might say something like, you will be able to format a presentation. So that's a little bit more concrete. It says you're saying, so that's why I'm going yellow here. So these are two I'm saying, probably not the best. Not bad, but not the best. This one's I'm saying is better because it's yellow now. So we're on the slow down instead of the stop. So you will be able to format a presentation. So now we're telling you this is what you will be able to, not this is just what we're going to explain, which is kind of vague, or you will understand, which is a little bit broad. It says this is, what you're going to do. Could we test for that? Yeah, because then they can actually, do a presentation and see if they can format it. Now, you can even get more specific than that, though. Still, you might say the objectives are more specific and say you will be able to list the number of objectives a presentation should have. So that's much more testable, right? You could say, you can ask just a multiple choice questions. Basically, how many objectives should you have in a typical presentation? 1 to 3, right? And then you can have the second objective. You will be able to structure a presentation using objective, expansion, and summary type of format. And that's what you're learning here. So, right. So now we're wrapping it up. These two are basically the formats I think would be most specific. They're kind of long. And again, I don't always do that. I often do something more like this. You will be able to format a presentation instead of actually listing out the objectives. So you'll note, again, if I go back up to this presentation, I often start off with a slide. And the slide, I usually list out the major objective. And I'm kind of hoping I only have like one objective that's kind of overarching. but I've kind of moved away from being completely listing each objective like I should, like I used to do, which I did here, right? You will be able to list the number of objectives a presentation should have, structure a presentation using objective, expansion, and summary, then explaining how that works in terms of 1 to 3 objectives, and then expanding on the objective, expand, and recap, and then we end up on the summary, right? So I tell you, this is the objective. Here's me explaining it, and then we're ending off on basically the objective again.